Hi, welcome back to Millennium Workshop. Today I'm going to show you how I made this giant Rancor. This thing is just absolutely beautiful. So sit back, relax, and let's get into this.
Alright, so right off the bat, we're going to get this out of the bamboo printer. I'm using a Bamboo 1P1S. I got the file from Galactic Armory, and it is a beautiful file. Had to chop it up quite a bit just because of how big we are printing this. Originally, I thought I hit the mark on a 1/6 scale, but definitely didn't make it quite there. But once we get the body all put together, we're going to do some soldering and get this thing brought to life. Now, I'm just having way too much fun at this point, so I had to show you guys. Arr!
Alright, now it's time to fill some of the gaps where we can join all the parts for the Rancor. I like to use, these come from my bamboo printer. These are little purge lines for when it's printing. These are great for filling little gaps or just overall welding them together. So save these. I save all of mine. It is totally worth it. They're not too thick, so you don't over blob while you're soldering. So let's keep going.
Now, this part is, if you want to make sure that you're kind of just don't overdo this, you don't want to be too heavy-handed, kind of look at it like you're going to be sculpting and going along, a lot of the wrinkles of the print. So look at it as you're re-sculpting it. Now right here is where I just got super excited because the height of this, the size of this is just absolutely perfect. Now, if you've watched my other videos, you know that when I do a Rancor, I start out with truck bed liner. This gives it a nice organic feel, skin, bubbles. It just looks absolutely awesome. Then we're going to go into a filler sandable primer just to give it a nice, just a nice smooth overall coat to kind of help blend the truck bed liner. Alright, then we're going to jump in with a hunter green. I thought I got good video of the next color, which I just did a lighter, kind of a like beigey green, and I hit the high spots, or like spots that with the references that I was kind of looking at would be lighter, like around the mouth, around the stomach. And then you want to go in and get a nice paint job and use some Vallejo airbrush paint to paint the eyes. It's real easy to just brush it on. Did it also in the mouth. We're going to get it super dark. Now when you're going to hit a certain point where you're like, these lines of where I stopped painting are a little too bold, just take a little bit of water, dirty it up a little bit, and you can blend it kind of like a watercolor paint. Because at the end of the day, this is still an acrylic, even though it's an airbrush paint. Now, since I already had the blackout, I'm going to paint his right cuff. We're going to paint that black, and then we're going to go in with some graphite powder here in a little bit. I just thought it would be a little bit easier to kind of get all my blacks down and then move on to my next color. Now I went with another airbrush paint. I went with a bright red. Kind of hard to focus there. There we go. I like using a lot of airbrush paints and actually hand painting with them because sometimes they're a little bit more transparent. You can do it in multiple coats if you want. It dries really fast. But I just don't. This red, I think it's perfect when I hand paint it on, and I think it really makes it pop. Now it's time for a good wash. I used an opaque black airbrush paint. You can use an acrylic black, any kind of black. I mixed in a little bit of brown to get it really nice and dirty and over watered it. You do not want this to go on too thick. It is really nice to do multiple coats if you need to, or darken some of the recessed areas or like armpit area around the elbows. But take your time with this. I think I ended up doing about 2 to 3 coats in different spots. Some spots only got 1 coat. But have fun with this step. This step is, one of my favorites just because the colors, they were just so bland and blah. Once you really start, darkening it up a little bit, it really makes it pop. And now it's time for graphite powder. You can put this on a bunch of different ways. I like to use a little sponge. I found these like Q-tips with a sponge tip on it, and they work great. And now for clear coat, I used 2 different types of clear coat. I used a matte at first, and then I went back in and around the mouth and any spot that would be maybe a little bit sweatier. I used a high gloss. Now it's time to make the base. So I'm going to be using my Tuca L2 laser. I'm going to be engraving my logo on the bottom of it. I actually took 3 of these round bases and I stacked them, glued them together. I just feel like it really, gave it the right amount of weight to really hold the Rancor up. Now it's time to attach part of the base to the Rancor. So I stacked up 2 of the wooden bases and I glued those together. Now I'm gluing the Rancor to it. Now I didn't feel like that would completely hold him, so what I did was I wanted to put some screws in the bottom. But since I'm putting another piece, the logoed piece, on the very bottom, I wanted to make sure that the screws that I was using was inset into the wood. So I pre-drilled and, you know, got it so when I screwed it in, that the screws wouldn't be sitting up, so the last part of the base wouldn't go on. Now I'm going to be putting some drool into his mouth. So I use some Gorilla Glue. This stuff's amazing. There's different ways you can do it. I kind of started at the bottom, and as it kind of dried a little bit, because it does dry quite fast, then I would kind of stretch it up toward the top, or I'd put a bunch in the roof of its mouth, and then, you know, kind of stretch it down. But have some fun with this part. The more drool, the more creative you get here, just the cooler it looks at the end. Now it's time to texture the base. So I went to my local Lowe's and I got some grout. I picked out a colored grout that I felt looked what was going to look the best. I'm going to be taking, you know, about 3 scoops of it, some clear Mod Podge. It's a really good glue to use for this. A little bit of water. The goal is to kind of get it to, you know, like a peanut butter consistency, or a little bit thinner than that, depending on how you want to do it. So like on the top, I went a little bit thinner than a peanut butter consistency, but on the sides to go down, I made sure to thicken it up, and, you know, because it sticks a lot easier on the side as it goes down.
So, if you made it through that entire video, I want to say thank you. You can now make your very own Rancor. He's almost 1/6 scale. 1/6 scale would have been 2 feet 9 inches. He comes in right at 2 feet with no base. I think if he was standing up straight, he might be there, but he's really close. So, if you like this video, please like and subscribe so I can make some more videos. I got some really cool ideas coming up. And again, thank you for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.